Okay, to do the bound buttonhole, we need to figure out how big our holes should be. So what you need to do is just measure the width of your button. Looks like mine, I believe, is 1 inch wide. Check over here. Actually, I think mine is 1 inch and 1/8 inch wide. Yeah, 1 inch and 1/8. And then we have to add 3/8. So 1 and 1/8 plus 3/8 equals 1.5. So my bound button is going to be 1.5 inches wide by 3/8 inches tall. Everyone will just do 3/8, no matter how big your button is. Now measure the dimensions you came up with on your garment. It's recommended to use like a fabric pen where it can disappear later, or chalk or something, but this is a notebook sample. If you want to use ink or Sharpie, I definitely don't mind at all, because this is the whole point here is learning. Okay, I have my 1.5 inch by 3/8 inch button. Okay, now we want to draw a line to split it up that's only 3/16 inch wide. That's 1/8. Okay, this is supposed to be 3/16, right? Smack in the middle. Okay. Our next step is to go and baste along this outside rectangle. Okay, here's how my base stitch turned out. So I did a pretty good job staying on my line. Now we need to cut out a 4 by 4 inch square that's on the bias. Right now I have a swatch of fabric where my straight grain is going up and down. If you really zoom in, you can kind of see the threads and see really where that grain line is. Let's see if you can tell. I'm not sure, I don't know if I have the best camera in the world to show you that. But I can definitely tell by pulling off my edges that my threads are going up and down. So the bias is on the 45-degree angle. So if you're not super good at figuring that out, we do have these handy little triangles in the classroom So if you line up your straight grain with the edge of the triangle and then the cross grain with the bottom part, it makes a 90-degree angle. And then this line right here is a 45-degree angle, which is a perfect bias line. So I think I might use this guy to help me out today. Okay, so I'm lining that guy. Okay, our next step is to pin our patch over our little basted square, and they want us to do right sides together, and I'm doing it using muslin. It's hard to tell which is the right side. This probably would have been smarter to do with a printed fabric. So I think what I'll do, I guess I'll just add some polka dots. So maybe, let's see if we can't see them on the back. You can't really see them on the back. So this will help me know, hey, this is the right side of my print. And then, so I'm just supposed to put this over, right sides together. Okay, I'm just gonna pin this guy together. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew right on my little basted rectangle here. I might actually even try to really sew more on the outside part of it than exactly on it, but I think either way will be fine. A pro tip that I read from the internet is if you count your stitches on one side, try to make sure you get the same amount on the other side. That's pretty pro. Let's just see if we can get through it. I thought I'd throw it out there since I read it and I felt obligated to share. Okay, so I think it's probably best to sew with this side face up. I guess I could do this one too, but I just think it's a little easier to see my stitching this way. So let's see how this goes. We also should be using a short stitch. I'm going to change it to like, I guess a 1. My stitch length, so make sure you know how to change your stitch length. Here we go. Let's see if I can give you guys a good view. Okay, here I go. My stitch length is about a 1. I'm gonna put my foot on the presser foot and let's see what happens. I'm gonna do one more stitch and I'm gonna back stitch. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm gonna do the hand wheel for number 7. And 8. Okay, I did 8 stitches. I'm gonna lift my needles down, so I'm gonna do a pivot turn by lifting up the presser foot and turning it. And okay, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to count this side. I guess I could try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm over. I don't know how much that is. Sorry. Couldn't do it. I tried. I'm not a pro. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, presser foot down, foot up, turn. You know what? I think I'm going to go back and do one more stitch. Excuse me, scissors. So I'm going to use a hand wheel. Okay, presser foot's down. Do we have our pivot turn? Yeah. Okay, and remember we did 8. Okay, what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm doing 8 by hand. Okay, presser foot's down, or needle's down, presser foot's up. I'm rotating it, and I'm just gonna work my way home. Okay, I'm gonna use the hand wheel to sew the last couple stitches. Okay, cool, I got it right where I started. I'm gonna back stitch. Oh no, I forgot. I forgot to hold down the little thing. I'm going backwards. Oh, phew. It didn't stitch. Hooray. There we go. Come on, little guy. Okay. I'm going to hold the handle down.
1, 2. Okay, let's go see how it turned.
Okay, I think it looks pretty good. We could definitely trim off our threads. We don't need them. Might be kind of distracting. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Definitely don't need these pins here anymore. You can get out of my way. Okay. So now what we have to do is we have to cut this guy right on that line. But the thing is, we don't want to cut straight all the way down. We want to cut into these corners. So I'm actually going to cut kind of like a triangle shape and then right onto this line. So I need to do that with my scissors. Okay. Wish me luck. I think I'm going to fold it in half. So let's hope we have some sharp scissors. Okay, kind of got me in there. I'm just gonna chomp. Oh, these aren't sharp. I'm gonna switch out to get the sharp ones. Okay, so I chomp right up to the end of that little V, and then now I'm gonna snip to the corner. I obviously don't want to snip my thread. That would be unfortunate. Great. Flip it. Snip. Snip. And snip. Cool. Okay, so now we are ready to pull out our button through the hole, this little flap thing. So go ahead and push it to the back side of your fabric. See some little polka dots. Great. And let's check this out. Hopefully I don't really have any puckers. If I have some puckers, maybe I didn't clip close enough to my little corner. This is my basting thread I never really got rid of. I guess I'll just cut it for now. Okay, cool. So now I'm ready to actually make the lips of my bound button hole. So in order to do that, I want to fold this one halfway down, kind of like that. Oopsies. So try that again. Fold it down. There we are. Hope I didn't go too far. And then this guy, fold it the opposite direction. And because this guy was cut on the bias, it should be like pretty easy and pliable to get where we want it to be, supposedly. So you get your little bound buttonholes. Okay, so if you think that looks good, you can always play around with it. If you think one's bigger than the other, just kind of keep messing with it. But I know this. But once you think you're ready, you lift back your buttonholes and you want to stitch the triangle guy. So I know that's kind of fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to stitch through all this thickness, catching, you know, just this patch and my, it kind of looks like a little pleat, doesn't it? And stitch it to the triangle, and then that's going to hold my fold for me. So I'm going to stitch this side and I'll flip it over and also stitch this fold together too as well. Okay, so it'd probably be a good idea, I would imagine, to put in a pin.
Okay, this guy lined up. I don't want to sew the part that's folded. I just want to sew this triangle to that little folded part. Okay. All right, I think I got it. I'm gonna go forward a couple, and I'm gonna go backwards. Okay. And backwards. Okay, great. Now, do you remember how to get it out of the machine? That take-up lever needs to be all the way up to the top, so I'm using the hand wheel to get it up there. And then we can lift up our presser foot and we can pull our fabric to the back. Why do I like pulling it to the back and not the front? Because if I pull it to the front, I risk bending my needle with the pressure. But if I do it under the presser foot, all that pressure hits our really strong presser foot. I don't have to worry about bending my needle. And pull it to the back, we should have nice tension. Everything should feel good. And then go ahead and trim it. And flip it over to the other side. Here we go. Okay, I guess I'll take out these pins. Oh man, let's see. I'm so nervous. stitch. That stitch. Okay, take up levers to the top, lifting up the presser foot, pulling it to the back, and cutting it. All right, cool. It looks good so far. Let's take it to the sewing table and examine it. Okay, I gave it a quick little press. I do still need to trim all these threads. And the last step is to take out your basting stitch. So I kind of purposefully stitched around my basting stitch so I wouldn't have to take it out. It could just kind of be hidden in there. But that's the last step. Let's see, I need to trim that still. Yeah, I gotta get rid of all these threads. And then now we just have to sew our button on to see if it actually works. And you should have sewn a button in beginning sewing. If you didn't, I'm just gonna show you the machine that I like the best. We have an industrial buttonhole maker here. We don't need a buttonhole because we just did our own buttonhole. But you could sew the button on by hand or use this machine. I love this machine that sews the button on. Okay, so I need to get some better. I have some little embroidery scissors I can use to kind of get those trimmed. Okay. Embroidery scissors, they're cool because they're little and then they're super flat. If you look at them, they're really, really thin compared to my chunky monkeys here. So sometimes it's a little bit easier to get those hard to reach threads. Also, usually, this is a notebook sample, so I love using a contrast thread. But in a garment that I'd actually wear, I probably would try to use a matching thread color. Okay, this video is to show you guys how to sew on a button. We can do it by hand, but I would like to show you how to use this machine because I think it's so great and I just love it. There's an on-off switch on the left, so turn it on. And then the button, it's stitch number 61, so you just have to navigate to 61. It's a touch screen, so it defaults to number 1. So I think it's best to hit the left button, so it takes us to 67 instead of hitting the right button a ton of times. And look, there it is. See it? So I'm just going to touch it. And it says 61 out of 67, so I can double check I'm on the right one. And I'm kind of ready to go. Well, I have my presser foot in, the correct presser foot. This little tab should always be up. Last person who used it was sewing a buttonhole, which is why it was down. So I have my right presser foot in, which I will, let me show you what that looks like. Why not, right? There you go. For this machine, it's letter M, that's what they call it. And the blue part should face you. Lift it up. Okay, cool. There's a little button in the back to get to snap on. And you put your fabric in, and then your button has 2 holes. If you have 4 holes, you just do 2 at a time. So you do it twice. You can either do it in an X or parallel design. I'm kind of lucked out here with only 2 holes. I lift up my presser foot, and I really want to make sure my 2 holes are centered in between my foot. Let's zoom in on that. See how they're, hopefully, are centered there. And then I'm going to test it by turning the hand wheel. See, here's our hand wheel. And it turns it towards me. Okay, that needle went in. The needle did not break. Keep turning. And it went into the other one as well. So we should be good without a broken needle. And I almost don't mind pushing it a little bit to the left. Let me try it again. Again. Yep, no broken needle. No broken needle. Fabulous. So we're ready. Let me set this down. So because I tested it, my presser foot is down. I don't even have the foot pedal plugged in, by the way. All I have to do is hit this green button. Yay! And it sewed my button for me. I'm all done. And that's so great. I love it. So I can do it twice if I really want, but I think once is good. When I'm done, I can hit this button and my thread comes up, and I can hit cut and it cuts it for me. You could do all that manually just by turning the wheel and getting scissors and cutting it yourself. But hey, since we have buttons that do it for us, why not do it? Lift up your presser foot. Always pull it towards the back. And it's already cut, so I don't need my scissors. But I should get my scissors probably just to trim the thread. There's one. Get the bottom. Cut off where it started. And voila! I have my button sewn on. Yay!
Okay, I sewed my button onto my fabric. I finished my bound buttonhole. Now it's the moment of truth. Will it actually fit? Did I do my math properly? Oh boy, here we go. Yeah, it fits perfectly. Oh my gosh, how cute. So fancy. I love it. Next time I will use thread that matches, right? But this is a notebook sample. It's about learning. And yeah, I think we did a good job.